Breathing, or respiration, is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs to facilitate gas exchange with the blood. Breathing involves two main processes: inhalation, also known as breathing in, and exhalation, also known as breathing out. These processes are driven by the movement of the diaphragm and the ribs. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located at the base of the lungs. When you breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, flattening out. This increases the space in the chest cavity. When you breathe out, the diaphragm relaxes and moves back up to its dome shape, reducing the space in the chest cavity. Rib muscles. These muscles are found between the ribs. During inhalation, the intercostal muscles contract, pulling the ribs upward and outward. This further increases the volume of the chest cavity. During exhalation, the intercostal muscles relax, allowing the ribs to move downward and inward, decreasing the volume of the chest cavity. Let's talk a little about volume and pressure. Breathing happens because of changes in pressure inside the chest. Here is how volume and pressure are linked. The air is made up of lots of particles that are constantly moving around. When these particles bump into something, they apply a force to it. This creates pressure. The more often the air particles bump into things, the higher the pressure becomes. When air particles are enclosed somewhere with a small volume, they bump into the sides a lot. This means they put a lot of pressure on the sides of the container. But when the same number of air particles are enclosed somewhere with a bigger volume, they don't bump into the side as often, so they don't create as much pressure. The movement of air into and out of the lungs is driven by changes in pressure within the chest cavity. When the diaphragm contracts and the ribs move up and out, the volume of the chest cavity increases. This increase in volume lowers the pressure inside the chest cavity compared to the outside air. Air flows into the lungs because gases move from areas of higher pressure to areas of lower pressure. When the diaphragm relaxes and the ribs move down and in, the volume of the chest cavity decreases. This decrease in volume increases the pressure inside the chest cavity compared to the outside air. Air flows out of the lungs because gases move from areas of higher pressure to areas of lower pressure. Lung volume can be measured. Lung volume refers to the amount of air the lungs can hold. It can be measured in different ways to assess lung health and function. Lung volume is different for different people. For example, taller people tend to have a bigger lung volume than shorter people, and some diseases may reduce a person's lung volume. Lung volume can be measured using a spirometer. To use a spirometer, a person breathes into the mouthpiece of the spirometer, and the device records the amount of air breathed in and out. The measurements are displayed on a graph called a spirogram, which shows the different lung volumes and capacities. To summarize, breathing is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs, driven by the movement of the diaphragm and rib muscles. During inhalation, the diaphragm contracts and the ribs move up, increasing chest cavity volume and decreasing pressure, allowing air to flow in. During exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes and the ribs move down, decreasing chest cavity volume and increasing pressure, pushing air out. Lung volume, which can be measured with a spirometer, includes different components like tidal volume and vital capacity, giving a complete picture of lung health and function.